Okay, today we are going to discuss ways of dealing with emotions in the present. That is, ways in which we can release tension or reduce tension or being emotionally upset in the present, as opposed to the long-term solutions of analysis. So one thing, the main solution really for unpleasant feelings is to discover the belief which creates those feelings and to change that belief. But because that's a long-term process, and it's not always easy to find the belief, and if we can find it, it's not always easy to change it, or we might be able to change it consciously, but it still may be functioning subconsciously, so that, as you experienced last week, that we may consciously have felt that, we have overcome something or worked through something, and then suddenly we realize that the subconscious mind is still working on it. So this is a long process, a process of freeing ourselves from negative emotions or from beliefs which create those emotions. So the question is, what can we do as a means of managing our emotional life until we are able to manifest these changes in beliefs, which means the changes in the way we react and feel in certain situations. Okay? So we're going to look at some of those cases. Now, one way of dealing with emotions is to use our breath. The breath can have a very powerful effect on our nervous system and on our emotions. So if we can learn to take a few deep breaths when we're upset and hold the breath for about a count of 5, and then as we exhale, just relax, we can begin to manage our emotional state in many situations. Okay? You will have noticed that when you are sleeping, or when a person is sleeping, his breathing is rhythmic and slow. Whereas when someone is upset, the breathing is quick and shallow. So this means that the emotions are affecting our breathing. So what we can do is reverse the process, affect our emotions through our breathing, by learning to breathe slowly and deeply. Now this has two applications. One application is daily breathing techniques, which help us in general to create a relaxed body and mind. And I would add the word vitalized body and mind, because breathing does both. It relaxes and rejuvenates. So it gives peace and energy. So if we're feeling low energy and we're breathing, we can have energy. If we're feeling nervous and we do breathing, we can relax. It's a very important technique. But except in addition to the daily breathing techniques, which will help us to create an emotional harmony, we can use it as an emergency procedure when we are feeling upset, or when we cannot sleep, or when the mind is overactive, or even when we're lacking in energy. We can take about 10 slow, deep breaths, counting for about 5 on the holding and relaxing. Don't hold the breath for more than 7 to 10 seconds, because that could create problems in the beginning. One needs to have to be able to develop that ability without creating problems. Another way to work through emotions is through dance. Any emotions that you might be feeling can easily be expressed by dancing. Now, it's unlikely that you can go out to a disco every time you're feeling unhappy. So it would be a simple solution just to put on some music at home. Probably you'd like to be alone. And just release whatever you're feeling through music. Now there's two ways this can be done. One way is to put on music which in a way expresses the emotions that I'm having, or put on music which connects me to the opposite emotion. So I can put on a sad kind of music and cry as I'm dancing, or I can put on this very happy music, lively music, and just get into another mood because the music makes me move. Now, it wouldn't be uncommon if in dancing your emotions came to the surface and you started to cry. That would be quite natural and beneficial. So, this also, as with the breathing, can be a preventative measure or an emergency measure. That is, we can dance 3 or 4 times a week as a preventative measure of releasing tensions and just keeping the body and the emotions in a positive state. Or we can do it whenever we are feeling that, we're having some emotions which we need to release. So breathing and dancing are 2 very powerful tools for working with emotions in the present. Another possibility, and of course with that there may be some crying or something like that. Another possibility, especially when the emotion might be anger or disappointment or bitterness, is to express that through movement, which would probably be like hitting a pillow, either with our hands or with a tennis racket or with a hose or something, and releasing this tension by beating something, as if we are venting this anger. Rather than venting it on the person themselves, we're venting it on this pillow, okay, or on a telephone directory. This reminds me of a friend of mine who was having weekly visits with a psychologist in the States, and he was expressing anger towards his father, my friend, not the psychologist. And at one point, the psychologist gave him a tennis racket and said, just start beating this pillow, to get rid of this anger. And my friend got carried away and started destroying this man's apartment. He broke lamps, he broke windows, Of course, he sent them a bill the next week for all the things that he broke. Okay, so these are 3 ways for venting. It's the breathing, it's the dancing, or beating on something and letting this energy go away. Now remember, we are not calling any of these solutions. These are temporary measures. The only real solution for our negative emotions is the transformation of our belief system. But as I mentioned earlier, because this is a long-term process, then we want to know various things that we can do as emergency measures.